My own brother stole money from my savings for years. I only found out at his wedding. My brother stole from me. Not once. Not some desperate, middle of the night, rock bottom moment where he grabbed a few hundred and swore he'd pay it back. No. Jake stole from me slowly, methodically, over the course of almost 4 years, skimming money out of my savings like he was collecting rent on my trust. And I didn't find out because he confessed, or because some bank flagged it, or because I suddenly got smart. I found out at his wedding. Sitting at the head table. Watching him dance with his bride. Because his best man thought it was funny. I need to get this out. I've been carrying it for 11 months now and it's eating me from the inside. I can't sleep some nights. I lie there doing math in my head, not the money, though that's part of it, but the math of years. How many times did I hand him the opportunity? How many times did he look me in the face and choose to take more? I keep arriving at the same answer and it never stops hurting. Let me go back. Jake was, my younger brother by 3 years. I'm 31 now. He just turned 28. We grew up in a small town about 40 minutes outside of Columbus, Ohio, the kind of place where nothing happens fast enough to distract you, so your family becomes your whole world whether you want it to be or not. Our dad worked maintenance at a packaging plant. Our mom picked up shifts at the Dollar General and cleaned houses on weekends. They weren't poor, but they were the kind of tired that doesn't leave room for extras. Everything went to keeping the lights on and making sure we had what we needed for school. Vacations were a week at Grandma's lake house in West Virginia, and that was the highlight of the year. So Jake and I leaned on each other. We shared a bedroom until I was 17, bunk beds until middle school, then twin beds pushed against opposite walls. We had this thing where, if one of us had a bad day, the other would stay up, didn't matter how late, and just talk. No phones, no distractions. Just two brothers lying in the dark, staring at the ceiling, saying the things we couldn't say in daylight. He told me once, when he was maybe 14, that he was afraid he'd never get out of that town. That he'd end up working at the plant like Dad, not because there was anything wrong with it, but because he wanted something different and didn't know how to get it. I told him he was the smartest person I knew. I told him he could do anything. I meant it. God help me, I meant every word. We grew up and things shifted the way they do. I went to Ohio State, studied accounting, yeah, the irony isn't lost on me, and landed a decent job at a mid-size firm in Columbus by 24. Nothing glamorous, but steady. I was careful with money. Our parents had taught us that much, even if they taught us by example rather than lecture. Every paycheck, I split it the same way: rent, bills, necessities, and then a portion into a savings account I'd been building since I was 21. That account was sacred to me. Not because I'm greedy. Because it was proof. Proof that I could build something. Proof that the son of a maintenance worker and a house cleaner could put together a future with his own hands. That account was my down payment fund. My start a real-life fund. By the time I was 27, I had a little over $45,000 saved. I was proud of that number. I checked it sometimes just to feel okay about the world. Jake's path was different. He enrolled at community college after high school but dropped out after a year, not because he wasn't smart, but because he was restless. He bounced between jobs. Stocking shelves at Home Depot, driving for DoorDash, a failed attempt at flipping sneakers online that he swore was just a learning phase. He wasn't lazy. I want to be clear about that. He worked. He just never stuck. And the distance between where I was financially and where he was kept growing, and I could feel it sitting between us like a guest nobody invited. I never rubbed it in. Never. I swear on everything I have left, I never once made him feel small about money. When he needed help, and he needed it often, I gave it freely. $200 here, $500 there. I co-signed a lease for him when no landlord would take the risk. When his truck broke down outside of Springfield and he couldn't afford the repair, I covered it. $1,500. He said, "I'll pay you back, man, I swear." I said, "Don't worry about it." I wasn't keeping score. He was my brother. That's what you do. But here's the thing about being generous with someone who's drowning: sometimes they stop seeing the lifeboat and start seeing the ocean as theirs. I don't know exactly when it started. Based on what I've been able to piece together, bank statements, dates, that sickening forensic accounting I did on my own records like some grief-stricken detective, I think it began about 4 years ago. Jake had access to my savings account. Not because I was careless. Because I trusted him. We'd set it up that way when I was 25 and he was 22, after I had a minor surgery and wanted someone to be able to handle things if something went wrong. He was my emergency contact, my next of kin on half my paperwork, and yes, an authorized user on my savings. It was a joint access arrangement I never thought twice about because why would I? He was my brother. He was Jake. The kid who cried for 3 days when our dog Rex got hit by a car. The teenager who rode his bike 6 miles in a thunderstorm to bring me Gatorade and soup when I had the flu. That Jake. The withdrawals were small at first. 100 here. 200 there. Spaced out over weeks, sometimes months. Just enough that they blended into the background noise of my account activity. I wasn't checking it obsessively. I'd log in maybe once a month, glance at the balance, see it was still climbing, and move on. I didn't scrutinize every line. Why would I? The money was supposed to be safe. The account was supposed to be untouchable. And the amounts he took were so carefully calibrated, almost always just below the threshold of what I'd notice, that I have to believe he planned it. That he sat down, looked at my patterns, and figured out exactly how much he could steal without me catching on. That thought alone makes me want to throw up. Over 4 years, the withdrawals got bolder. 300. 500. Once, 800 in a single month, split across 2 transactions. He was testing boundaries. Seeing what he could get away with. And every time nothing happened, every time I didn't call, didn't question, didn't notice, it must have confirmed something for him. That I was either too trusting or too stupid. Maybe both. I have to take a breath here because this next part is where it gets really bad. About 2 years into the stealing, Jake started dating Megan. She was wonderful, smart, warm, one of those people who asks you how you're doing and then actually listens to the answer. She worked as a vet tech and drove a beat-up Honda Civic with a Who Rescued Who bumper sticker, and I liked her immediately. I was happy for him. Genuinely, painfully happy. Because I thought maybe this was his turning point. Maybe loving someone good would make him want to be better, to build something. And it seemed like it was working. He got a more stable job at a logistics company, started talking about the future, seemed lighter. I thought, finally. My brother is figuring it out. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have known, was that Jake was funding parts of that new life with my money. The nicer apartment in the short north. The dates at places he never could have afforded before. That trip they took to Cancun that he posted all over Instagram, the one where I commented living your best life, bro with a fire emoji. My savings paid for a piece of that trip. My down payment fund. My future. He proposed to Megan about 18 months ago. Big, beautiful proposal, out at Hocking Hills, golden hour, the whole thing filmed by their friend. Family was thrilled. Mom cried so hard she couldn't talk. Dad shook his hand and said, "Proud of you, son." I stood there smiling so hard my face hurt, and I meant that smile. I was so proud of him I could have burst. I helped him plan. I helped him budget for the wedding. I offered to contribute, and I did, Venmo'd him $3,000 because that's what big brothers do. He looked me in the eye when he thanked me, pulled me into a hug, and said, "You're the best brother anyone could ask for." $3,000. Given freely. On top of what he'd already taken. The total, when I finally added it all up. Just over $19,000. He stole $19,000 from me over 4 years, and I bankrolled his wedding on top of it. Now. The wedding. It was beautiful. I'll give him that. A barn venue about an hour south of Columbus, string lights, mason jars, wildflowers on every table. Megan looked like she was glowing. The families mixed well, the caterer did some kind of brisket that people wouldn't shut up about, and Mom had insisted on making her famous peach cobbler even though there was a dessert table, because that's who she is. I was the older brother, sitting at the head table. Not the best man. His buddy Tyler had that honor. I gave a toast, told a story about how Jake once tried to fight a kid twice his size in 7th grade for calling me a nerd, and how I had to pull him off the kid while he screamed, "Nobody talks about my brother like that." The room laughed. Jake's eyes got glassy. Megan squeezed his hand. I believed in that moment. I believed it was real. Then Tyler gave his speech. Tyler was already 5 beers deep, loose, loud, the kind of best man who thinks the microphone is his personal comedy hour. He started with the usual stuff. Embarrassing stories, college party memories, roasting Jake for his sneaker phase. Then he shifted into what he called the real talk. "Jake, buddy," he said, leaning into the mic with a grin. "You're the most resourceful dude I know. Seriously. This man figured out how to build a whole life out of nothing." Well, he laughed, and pointed his beer toward me, not nothing. Let's just say he had a very generous silent investor. The room chuckled. A few people looked at me and smiled, assuming it was a joke about me helping with the wedding. I smiled back. Confused, but smiling. Because that's what you do at your brother's wedding. But Tyler kept going. "No, but for real," he said, swirling his Bud Light. "Jake told me about the account thing ages ago. The savings situation. And I was like, dude, that's bold. That's some next level family trust right there. Using your brother's rainy day fund to build your sunny day." The room went quiet. Not the good kind. The confused kind. The wait, what did he just say kind. I looked at Jake. He was frozen. The color left his face like someone had pulled a plug. Megan was looking between him and Tyler with this expression that told me she didn't know either. Tyler, realizing the air had changed, tried to recover. "I'm just messing around, relax, relax," but it was too late. The words were out. They were in the air, in the barn, in my chest. I don't remember the next few minutes clearly. I know I stood up. I know I walked outside. I know the property had this gravel path that led to a pond, and I stood at the edge of it staring at the water because looking at anything human would have broken me. My hands were shaking. Not from anger. Not yet. From the feeling of something enormous shifting inside me, like a building foundation cracking from the inside out. My cousin Sarah followed me out. She's the family's quiet one, the observer. She put her hand on my shoulder and said, "What was Tyler talking about?" I didn't answer because I didn't know yet. Not the full scope. Not the real number. All I had in that moment was a drunk best man's punchline, and a brother who couldn't look me in the eye. Jake found me 20 minutes later. He came outside alone, jacket off, tie loosened, looking like a man walking toward his own sentencing. And in a way, he was. He started with, "It's not what it sounded like." And I said, "Then tell me what it is." The conversation that followed was the longest 15 minutes of my life. He talked in circles at first, minimizing, deflecting, doing that thing where you confess to a fraction of the truth and hope it passes for the whole thing. I borrowed some money. It was only a few times. I was going to tell you. I was going to pay it back. I kept asking the same question, how much? And when he finally said a number, he said maybe 8 or 9,000, I felt something inside me go cold. Not because of the amount. Because I already knew, somehow, in that way your body knows things before your brain catches up, that he was still lying. Even in his confession, even at the edge of everything falling apart, he was managing the damage. Giving me a number he thought I could swallow. I went home that night and pulled up every statement I could access. 4 years of transactions. And there it was. Withdrawal after withdrawal. Some labeled ATM, some transfers to an account I didn't recognize that turned out to be his checking. $19,214. Gone. I sat at my kitchen table in my apartment in Columbus at 3 a.m. with printed bank statements spread out in front of me like evidence in a trial, and I did something I hadn't done since I was a boy. I cried. Not because of the money. The money was devastating, yes. 4 years of discipline, sacrifice, skipped vacations and packed lunches and driving my 10-year-old Camry when I could have upgraded, gone. But that wasn't why I cried. I cried because I kept thinking about all those late-night conversations in our shared bedroom. All those secrets whispered in the dark. All the times I said don't worry about paying me back and he said you're the best brother anyone could ask for. I cried because I realized that every single act of trust I'd ever extended to him, every door I'd opened, every safety net I'd built, he hadn't just walked through them. He'd picked the locks on all the ones I kept closed. I didn't just lose money that night. I didn't just lose a brother. I lost the only person in this world I never thought I'd have to protect myself from. It's been 11 months since the wedding. 11 months since Tyler's drunken toast cracked open the floor beneath my life and I fell through it. People keep telling me it'll get easier. That time heals. That family is complicated but blood is blood. I nod when they say these things because it takes less energy than explaining that some wounds don't heal, they just stop bleeding long enough for you to forget they're there, until you move wrong and feel the whole thing tear open again. The first week after the wedding was chaos. Not loud chaos. The quiet kind that's worse. Jake called me 4 times the day after. I didn't answer. He texted paragraphs, long, winding messages full of "I'm sorry and let me explain and please don't shut me out." I read every word. I don't know why. Maybe I was looking for something real in them. Some sentence that would make it smaller, make it make sense, make it something other than what it was. But every message was the same, him trying to narrate his way out of what he'd done, framing the theft as a mistake, like he'd accidentally tripped and fallen into my bank account 17 dozen times. Megan called me, too. Once. Her voice was shaking. She said she'd had no idea, that she was horrified, that she was trying to process it all. I believe her. I don't blame Megan for any of this. But hearing her voice, this woman he'd built a life with using bricks he stole from mine, made me feel something I can't fully describe. Not anger toward her. More like vertigo. Like standing at the edge of how deep the deception went and realizing I still couldn't see the bottom. My parents found out within days. News like this doesn't stay contained in small-town Ohio families, it seeps through phone calls and kitchen table whispers until everyone's soaked in it. Mom called me crying, and I could hear Dad in the background, pacing, that heavy, deliberate pacing he does when he's furious but can't show it. Mom kept saying, "He's your brother, Nathan, he's your brother," as if reminding me of a fact would undo the damage of it. As if the word brother was a magic spell that could reconstruct $19,000 and 4 years of lies. Dad got on the phone eventually. He didn't say much. He asked me if it was true, how much, and how long. When I told him, there was this pause, maybe 5 seconds, that felt like an hour. Then he said, quietly, "I didn't raise him for this." And hung up. That might have been the worst moment of all of it. Worse than the bank statements. Worse than Tyler's speech. Because my father is a man who's worked the same maintenance job for 26 years without complaint, a man who believes the only thing you truly own in this world is your word. And in 5 seconds of silence, I heard that belief break. The family fractured along predictable lines. Aunt Denise, Jake's godmother and his biggest defender since birth, called me overdramatic and said I was tearing the family apart over money. Uncle Rick on my mom's side said Jake should repay every cent and apologize on his knees. Cousins picked sides. The family group chat splintered into smaller threads. Someone, I still don't know who, posted a vague but clearly pointed status on Facebook about family loyalty and airing dirty laundry for the world to see, and I watched 23 people react to it, each reaction a tiny little vote on whose pain mattered more. I deleted the Facebook app that night. I didn't need a jury. I needed my brother to not have stolen from me, and no amount of emoji reactions was going to give me that. The thing about betrayal within a family, and I mean real betrayal, not the petty Thanksgiving arguments people dress up as trauma, is that it doesn't just break a relationship. It rearranges your entire understanding of your own history. Every memory I had of Jake was now a crime scene I had to revisit. Every conversation, every favor, every love you, bro, I had to hold it up to the light and ask, was this real? Or was this maintenance? Was he being my brother, or was he keeping the mark warm? That question is poison. And once it's in your system, it doesn't leave. I started doing the timeline. Not because I wanted to, because I couldn't stop. I'd be at work, reviewing some clients' financials at the firm, and suddenly I'd think, that $400 withdrawal in March 2022, that was the same week he took me out for my birthday. He paid for dinner at that steakhouse downtown. Did he pay with my money? The Cancun trip, $800 withdrawn the month before. The engagement ring, I don't know what it cost, but there was a $500 withdrawal 2 weeks before he proposed at Hocking Hills. Was Megan wearing my future on her finger? I know how that sounds. I know it sounds bitter and obsessive and like I'm reducing everything to dollars. But you have to understand, the money was never just money. It was years of discipline. It was proof that I could build something. That the kid from a small town outside Columbus who wore hand-me-downs and ate free lunch at school could put together a life worth living. And he took it like it was nothing. Like it was just sitting there, waiting for someone to claim it. Like the hours I worked and the things I went without were just an inconvenience standing between him and what he wanted. 2 months after the wedding, Jake showed up at my apartment. Unannounced. I almost didn't open the door, but I saw him through the peephole and he looked diminished. Smaller, somehow. Like the revelation had physically shrunk him. He was wearing that old Ohio State hoodie I gave him years ago, the one I got at a thrift store my sophomore year, and I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it hit me somewhere I wasn't ready for. I let him in because even after everything, some part of me, the kid who shared a room with him, who stayed up on bad nights, who told him he was good enough, that part doesn't know how to leave a door closed when he's on the other side. He sat on my couch and didn't speak for almost 2 full minutes. Then he said, I know sorry isn't enough. I said, it's not. He said, I don't know why I did it. And that sentence, hit me harder than the theft itself. Because I'd been waiting for a reason. Some explanation that would at least give the betrayal a shape, a logic, something I could hold and examine and eventually, maybe, set down. Was it gambling? Debt? Something he was ashamed of? Some crisis I didn't know about? I'd been constructing scenarios in my head for weeks, trying to find one that made sense, one that let me keep some version of the brother I thought I knew. But I don't know why I did it is the emptiest answer in the world. It means there was no crisis. No breaking point. No moment where the universe backed him into a corner and he had no other choice. He did it because he could. Because the money was there and I was trusting and it was easy. And the ease of it, the sheer effortlessness with which he betrayed me, is what I can't forgive. Not the theft. The casualness of it. He offered to pay me back. He said he'd set up a payment plan. He even pulled out his phone to show me some kind of spreadsheet he'd made, probably Googled repayment plan template in the parking lot, and the absurdity of it almost made me laugh. My brother, the man who stole $19,000 from me over 4 years, sitting on my couch with a repayment spreadsheet like we were negotiating a used car deal. Like money could fill the hole he'd carved out of my chest. I told him to leave. Not because I hated him. Because looking at him hurt in a way I didn't know how to survive while he was in the room. The months after that were the loneliest of my life. Jake and I had been each other's default, the first call when something happened, the standing Sunday football tradition at my place, the person you sent a meme to at midnight without thinking. Losing him wasn't like losing a friend. It was like losing a limb. I kept reaching for my phone to text him. Kept almost calling. One night I wrote out an entire message, something about the Browns actually winning and how I wished he'd seen the fourth quarter, and my thumb hovered over the send button for 30 seconds before I deleted it. Because who was I sending it to? The brother I remembered, or the one who actually existed? The loneliness has a texture to it that I wasn't prepared for. It's not just missing him. It's missing the version of the world where I had a brother I could trust. That world was warmer. It was safer. It had a floor you could stand on without wondering when it would give way. Now I live in the other world, the one where the person who knew me longest and deepest used that knowledge not to protect me but to take from me. And every relationship I have now is colored by that. I catch myself doubting people. Checking things I never used to check. My coworker borrows my phone charger and I notice. A buddy asks me to split the Hulu account and I hesitate. These are tiny, ridiculous moments, but they're symptoms of something Jake planted in me, this low hum of suspicion that I carry everywhere now, like tinnitus of the soul. Mom tries to broker peace. She calls me every Sunday and works Jake into the conversation like she's threading a needle. Jake asked about you. Jake's doing well at his new job. Jake and Megan found a nice little house out in Westerville. She wants me to hear his name and feel something other than what I feel. She wants the Thanksgiving table to be whole again. I understand that. She's a mother. Her pain is different from mine. She didn't lose a brother, she's watching two sons become strangers, and that's its own kind of grief. I don't blame her for trying. But every time she says his name, I feel that crack in the foundation shift a little more. Dad doesn't mention him to me at all. That silence says more than anything. 6 months after the wedding, I saw Jake and Megan at a family gathering I couldn't avoid, Mom's birthday dinner at the Olive Garden in town, because that's been the tradition since we were kids, and skipping your mother's birthday to avoid your brother felt like letting him take something else from me. I was done letting him take things. He was across the table when I arrived. We made eye contact for exactly 1 second, this horrible, loaded second where I could see everything in his face: guilt, shame, sadness, and something else that took me a while to name. It was longing. He missed me. I could see it as clearly as a bruise. And the sickest part? Seeing that he missed me made me miss him more. Because grief doesn't care about justice. It doesn't read your bank statements. It just sits in your chest and aches for the person you've lost, even when that person is sitting 5 chairs away, pushing breadsticks around his plate and pretending to laugh at Dad's corny jokes. We didn't speak. I stayed for 2 hours, sang happy birthday, kissed Mom on the cheek, and left. In the parking lot, I sat in my Camry for 10 minutes, gripping the steering wheel, because the alternative was falling apart and I was already so tired of falling apart. Last month, I saw on Instagram, I know, I should stop looking, that Jake and Megan announced they're expecting. The post was sweet. Soft lighting, a pair of tiny Converse sneakers next to Megan's boots, the whole aesthetic. 212 likes. Mom's comment, Grandma ERA, crying face emoji, red heart emoji, red heart emoji, red heart emoji. Antonese wrote God is good. With about 15 exclamation points. I stared at that post for a long time. Not with hate. Not even with anger. With this aching, complicated grief for the uncle I was supposed to be. In the version of the world where my brother didn't betray me, I would have been the first person he called. I would have driven over with a onesie that said something stupid like my uncle is cooler than your uncle and a case of non-alcoholic beer and too much food. I would have cried, the good kind, and bear hugged my little brother and told him he was going to be the best dad. I can see that version so clearly it feels like a memory that got stolen along with the money. Instead, I double-tapped the post, because even now, some reflex in me won't let me be cruel, closed the app, and sat with the silence. I think about forgiveness sometimes. Not because I'm close to it, but because the question follows me around like a stray dog I can't chase off. Could I forgive him? Maybe. Someday. People do. People rebuild after worse. But forgiveness isn't the thing I struggle with most. The thing I struggle with most is the knowing. The permanent, irreversible knowing that the person I trusted most in this world was capable of what he did. You can't unknow that. You can't rebuild on a foundation you've seen crack. You can just build somewhere else and hope the ground holds. Jake sends me a message every Sunday. Same time, noon, which used to be when he'd come over for football. Sometimes it's just thinking of you. Sometimes it's a memory. Last week it was, remember when you taught me to ride a bike and I wiped out into the Henderson's mailbox and you carried me home even though you were only 10 and I was almost as big as you? Mom was so mad about the mailbox. You told her it was your fault. I remember. Of course I remember. I remember his bloody knee and his face crumpled up with tears and how heavy he felt in my arms, even though I'd never have admitted it. I remember thinking, even at 10, I'll always take care of him. I'll always have his back. He's my brother. I read every message he sends. I haven't replied to a single one. Because I don't know what to say to the person who taught me that love and theft can live in the same body. That someone can hold you with one arm and empty your pockets with the other. That brother is just a word, and words without integrity are just noise. I saved $19,214 over 4 years. He took it in transactions so small I never felt them leave. But the thing that actually left, the thing I'll never get back, no matter how many spreadsheets he makes or payments he sends, is the certainty that I wasn't alone in this world. The bone-deep, unshakable belief that no matter how hard things got, there was one person who would never, ever hurt me. He was supposed to be the one person I never had to watch my back around. Now I watch everyone. People ask me if I've healed. I tell them I'm working on it, because that's what you say. But the truth, the real, ugly, 3 a.m. truth, is that I haven't healed. I've just learned to carry it. I've gotten stronger, not because the weight got lighter, but because I stopped expecting anyone to help me hold it. And some nights, when my apartment in Columbus is too quiet and the walls feel too close, I lie in bed and stare at the ceiling the way we used to when we were kids in that tiny bedroom on Maple Street. And I talk to him. Not to the man who stole from me. To the boy who shared a room with me. The boy who cried for 3 days when Rex got hit by that car. The kid who rode his bike 6 miles through a thunderstorm just to bring me soup. The boy who screamed nobody talks about my brother like that while I held him back. I talk to that boy because I miss him. Because that boy wouldn't have done this. And because I'm starting to understand, slowly and with more pain than I have words for, that that boy might never have existed at all. Greater than I used to think the worst thing a stranger could do was rob you. But strangers don't know where you keep your trust. My brother did. He knew exactly where I kept it, unlocked, unguarded, with his name on the door. And he walked in and walked out so quietly I didn't hear a thing. $19,000 and 4 years of faith. The money I can earn back. But the faith? That's gone. And the thing that keeps me up at night isn't what he took. It's that I still leave a light on for him. And I hate myself for it.